Okay, we are now recording. So, do you want me to show you how to create a quiz, or do you already know how to do that?
No, show me how, because I have not made one.
Okay, so we're going to start with that first. First, I'm going to go through the different things you can do just to get the juices flowing, the creative juices. So this is called response validation. Older students, teachers use this to password protect a quiz, but you can also do it if you're creating some kind of breakout fun activity. The kids will have to go around the classroom and they do the activities and they figure out what the password is or the code is. And then like once they unlock it at the end, you can have some special prize. But this is also something that you would use for like a digital breakout. And then this is what the kids see on their end. So they're trying to type in the whatever the word is, or and then the 3-digit lock code. If they get it wrong, you can also have it give a clue, or you could just have it say try again. So there you also get to add whatever you want to the response validation to make it easier for the kids. This one is using response validation for kids to be able to practice more often. So practice doing the assignment over and over until they get it right. You could use it for something like this with irregular pronouns, and you could have like the word there, his and hers equals, and then the word theirs would be correct. If they didn't get it correct, they couldn't move on to the next problem. And that would be kind of creating a problem in each section. So I've seen this where in flipped classrooms or blended learning, kind of like what we're doing right now, where you'll teach a math lesson. I realize for you, your math lessons are a little more rudimentary than an upper grade teacher. But for example, if they were teaching addition of fractions, and after the lesson, so that they could videotape themselves and put the videotape in the Google form where the kids can watch it over and over and over. And then after that, have 3 questions for adding fractions. And then they wouldn't be able to move on to the next question until they got the first one right. So it forces them to practice and do and watch the video again until they get the question right. So it's another way of kind of implementing standards-based or mastery-based learning. So let's move on from here. And this is just like a screenshot of what it could look like. So in the slide presentation, I have little places where we can stop and you can click on it and it'll take you to what a flipped or blended learning Google form might look like. So this one, let me take my translation off here. This one, you have to put an email address and a passcode in. And quite honestly, I don't remember what it is. So we'll just go to the edit because I made this a long time ago. So here, this is a response validation. I have try again. So the number is 25. So they would have been given that number to go on to the flipped instruction. So here is just, it's a graphic. It just says the word innovate has the root word nov. So in it, which means new. So then here it's just asking what's the root word. Where can you get ideas if you're stumped? Online, Google search. You could also use it for an exit slip. And this could be, for whatever you're working on during the day for the topic, the upcoming topic that they want to work on. You could rate group collaboration, reflect on today's learning. There are lots of different ways that you could use this also as an exit slip. So I just wanted to give a couple ideas there. Also, especially for kinder, first, maybe even second, doing a book walk. So this book walk I created quite a while ago. It's Dave Pilkey, and when you click on it, you'll be able to make your own copy of it. So if you wanted to use it, you could. I think I was teaching 3rd grade when I did this one. So basically, they fill in their name, and then they have a picture of what the book looks like. And then they're, book walk, they're looking at the cover. Why do you think the dog's mouth is open? Why do you think it's green? Write your thoughts on, if they're working with a group, you could change that. What are your thoughts on the book? And then find an illustration on the book. Oh, shoot, I replaced this too. So this is a video from YouTube of the actual book being read. So it's kind of neat because you can do like a precursor. You could even take screenshots of different pages and put it on there to do the book walk, and then have the book read to the kids, and then just have a couple questions following it. So again, I know it's what we're in right now is not ideal, but these are kind of ways you can get around it to make it feel more like they're in the classroom with you. So there's one example of a book walk. You can also use them for phenomena. So you could have a time lapse video in here. You could just have an image like this one, where you're basically just asking, what do you see and what do you wonder type of question. So if you click on this one, it's going to take you to the Google form that has this image. And right here is where, so last week, Carolyn and I discovered that you can add voice notes. So whatever is written, you can record what it says. And so those who need that extra support, for example, in your book talk, you could record each of the little questions. And we're using this little, if you guys are aware of this, I've talked about it before, it's called Talk and Comment, the extension, and we just recorded it, copied the link and pasted it in here. And then when you're in preview, like we're in right now, it looks like this.
Describe what you see in the picture above.
And then they can write. So basically all we did was go here, click on Talk and Comment, record it, paste the link in here, and that's how it comes out. So something else that we wanted to show you. So again, this is another way of using it as a phenomena, or you could just have an interesting image and have the kids write a story below it. What's going on in this picture? That's actually an EduProtocol. And then create your own adventures. This is where you could choose your own adventure story. I'm sure everyone's heard of those. It's basically something that you would have to build out before you started creating it, because you have to understand that for every single choice, it's binary. So for example, if there was a dark cave and you have that image, and then above it, you have the story, Fox is walking through the forest and he comes across this dark cave. You see the image, and then below it, he goes into the cave or he runs back home. So depending on what they answer, it's going to branch to a new section. And then that section will have even more of the story, moving the story along. And then that section will have a binary answer. And the section where he goes home could have a binary answer. One could move the story along, the other one could go back to the beginning. So they have to start all over, and then they know not to choose I ran home. So there are different ways of building it out. And on this particular slide in the speaker notes, I've linked a Green Eggs and Ham story. That's a choose your own adventure. And I attached, so I taught 5th grade. The last year I was in the classroom, I taught 5th grade, and there's a colonial choose your own adventure story in there that I created for my class. So you could use those, but it kind of gives you an idea of how you set it up. And then I also gave you 3 or 4, I think it's 4 different templates for creating choose your own adventure stories. So this one that's on the GIF, basically you create your outcomes. So if you have just 2, you have section 1, section 2. I usually go through and I'll show you, if you're interested, how to name the section. So if it was go home, that section would be called home. And if it was enters the cave, the dark, scary dark cave, then I would call that section cave. And then from there, I would move the story along. And then the next sections, you name them. And then when you go back up, instead of saying continue to section 2, it'll say continue to cave or continue to home. So that's basically how you set it up. And those are all my ideas. So now what I'm going to do is show you how to do this. So we're going to go back into Google Drive. So if you don't have it open, go ahead, open a tab and get into your Drive. And we're going to go to New and Forms. And then we can just call this form practice. Oops. And then when you click up here at the top where it has the name, that's how it's going to appear in your folder. This is what the kids or the participants see, and this is what you see. When you click there, it's automatically going to take this. But if you want to number them or something, you can always put in front of this 01. Sometimes it's easier to number them so they stay chronologically in your Google Drive. So, but the kids will just see whatever you name it here, or your participants. So it sets itself up just ready to go to type your question. So I'm just gonna type a question. What color is the sky on a clear day? And the AI is anticipating the type of question you want. But when you click here, these are all your options. So short answer is like a couple sentences. A paragraph is more than a couple sentences. You have multiple choice where there's only one correct answer. You have check boxes where you can have multiple correct answers. So if you wanted to do something, select all that apply, you would select check boxes. And then drop down is only one correct answer. That's a lot of times used when you have a long list of choices, just to make it shorter so it doesn't, the survey for the form doesn't seem really long. File upload is probably not something you're going to use in the very primary level, but in the upper elementary, this allows students to upload videos, images, documents from their Google Drive. You could also make it a short answer and they just enter the link to whatever they want to share. Linear scale is a Likert scale, and then these are more advanced. We're probably not going to go over these today, but if anyone wants to know how to use these 2 grids, I'll spend some time with you. So we're going to keep this as multiple choice. And option 1, we're going to put, I usually put the right answer first and then I move it where I want it. And then you can just click enter and option 2 comes up, or you could click add option. I find it easier just to click enter. So how about red, enter, black, enter, and clear? Because I like to put something, an answer on here that's similar to the right answer, but it isn't correct, to make them critically think, because multiple choice is pretty much they're not using critical thinking skills. Now, next to the answer, you'll see like this little grid box following me. This is so I can drag it to where I want it. Notice over here the little image icon. This allows you also to add an image that will also help your students, especially early readers, understand that that is the word red. So I could click on that and do an image search for the color red. And I could just take this box and insert it there. And I can do that for each one. So this is really good for English learners also. So I could do that for each one of these. I don't want to waste too much time just looking for colors, but the color clear is going to be challenging, obviously. We could try that one, see what we come up with. Here we go. Oops. Yeah. Not going to really find much. Oh, that almost looked transparent. How about if I put the color transparent? So we'll leave that one blank. How about just white, because it'll look transparent. No, let's do this one. Yeah. I don't know if that's what I would do, but I feel like now I have to do it for the last one. Oh, I wanted one the same orientation as. Okay. So here we have our question. And we're just going to make one question just for demonstration purposes. So the form is done, but each question you'll have to mark this required button. So you just tap on it and it makes it required. But you'll notice I didn't do that and it's already required. So let me show you how you set it up. So they're automatically required, meaning the kids can't skip it. They have to answer it. And then if you don't want something required, you just uncheck the box for those. So at the very top of your Google Forms, you'll see the scoops, the 3 dots. Click on that. And at the very bottom is preferences. So click on preferences. And here's where you can manage anything you want to be a preference, a default setting. There are only 3 options, but you can automatically collect email addresses if you want that to be a default. And then you can make questions required. So you want to check this. And then you can make the default quiz point value 0, or you could just uncheck that. I have it as 0 just to remind me to change it. So when we get to showing you quizzes, I'll show you why that's important. And then once you do that, click save. Now, any questions you've created, you're going to have to go back because you created them before you set the preference. But you'll see if this is my little mini menu. If I create another question by clicking on this add question, this one is now required. You could do the same thing. So the mini menu, let's go over that. This is how you create a new question. This is how you can import a question from a quiz you already created. So let's say you've done, especially upper, you've done a quiz after units or lessons in the unit, and then you want to do an overall informal test. You could pull in questions from those quizzes and you wouldn't have to recreate all those questions. They would automatically be there for you. The title is basically, this is what it looks like. It's just like a break. So if I had open-ended questions or multiple choice questions, and then this section is open-ended questions, I could put open-ended questions like that section. This right here, this image. So remember what I showed you before, I had the inquiry image. That's how I got it in there. I just clicked on that. I did a Google search for a storm. That image came up. I put the image in. I titled the image. Same thing for a video in YouTube. If you already know the video, you could just enter the URL and the video will be there. The kids watch the video, and then underneath it, you could have them write a summary using no less than 3 details from the video. You could have text and a video and have them write a summary using no less than 5 details from either the text or the video. There are a lot of ways that Google Forms can be used for delivering instruction, not just assessing. So I'm going to go ahead and get rid of these, but that's the mini menu. And then what I was telling you guys about earlier with the choose your own adventure stories, or if you wanted to password protect a quiz, this is what you use right here is this section. So when I go here, it creates a new section. And then this is where you would title it, for example, in that the example I gave you with the cave and home, this would be called cave. And then for this, so I have 3 options here. I would click on the scoops in the question or where it said, it had the picture of the cave and did Fox go into the cave or run home? I would click right here and I would select go to section based on answer. And then I would come up to, so the first 2, this one goes into the cave, this one goes home. We're pretending we're using that reference or that example. This is where I would say, okay, this one is where he's going to go to the cave. See how I named it? It's better to name the section rather than relying on section 2, section 1, section 2, and remembering, because as you build that story out, you're going to have section 7 and 8, and you're going to get lost. That comes from experience. So, okay, so we're going to delete this just to kind of give you an idea of what it looks like when you're creating sections and the choose your own adventure. Now, once you have your quiz done, you're going to want to come over here to preview, or I'm sorry, just your questions. The quiz isn't finished, the questions are. So you go to preview just to make sure it looks the way you want it to look. So you would go through all of the questions. Oh, this came out good. I was afraid it was going to be a white box. So perfect. So I'm going to go back up here to the top. You guys can see this screen, can't you?
Yes.
Okay, there's no more green line around it. It's weird. Okay, so you're going to go back to your edit version. And now we're ready to make it a quiz. So I'm going to go to the settings wheel. And this is where I'm going to go through each of the 3 tabs, kind of like in Google Classroom, where they don't look like a tab, but they really are. So we're under the general tab. So do I want to collect student email addresses? I'm going to say yes, just for documentation purposes. But you probably don't want them to get a response receipt because they can share their answers, especially if they got them wrong, with a classmate. This isn't probably as necessary for kinder and first grade as it is for when you get higher than that. You do probably want to restrict it to Corona Norco, so just students are signing in, so parents aren't doing the work for the kids. And because it's a quiz, you want to limit it to just 1 response. And then this is up to you. Do you want your students to be able to edit their answers after they submit it? And do you want them to see a summary chart and text responses? Again, this is going to give them information on how well they did on the quiz. So it's up to you if you want them, discussing their answers with each other and deepening that knowledge because it's just a quiz, that's perfect, or an exit slip. But if it's something where, you're going to be scoring it and you really want their authentic knowledge, then you maybe don't want to check any of that. So now we're going to click on presentation. And if you have a bunch of different sections and it's a quiz, having a progress bar is nice. If it's a choose your own adventure story, probably you don't want the progress bar. And then again, if it's a quiz and you want to shuffle the order, you do need to make 2 sections. The first section should always say last name, first name, right? And then the next section should have the questions for the quiz. I didn't do that on mine, and I can show you if you didn't how to set it up after the fact. The reason why is because it's going to shuffle all the questions, and last name and first name are considered a question. So what you want to do is make sure that you don't have like 3 questions and then last name and then another question and first name and then 2 more questions, because it's going to shuffle all amongst all of your quiz questions. So it doesn't matter if it shuffles it in the first section. The person on the left might be filling in first name and then last name. Person on the right is doing last name, then first name. It's just 2 questions. So it doesn't matter if it shuffles it if you keep the name as a standalone in the first section. So if you're doing a quiz, it's usually a good idea to shuffle. If they're in the classroom, if they're online, on Zoom, it probably doesn't matter because they can't see. And now we're going to click on quizzes, and this is where we're going to make it a quiz. So we're going to click on this button. We're making it a quiz. Now, when we get back to school, this is super awesome. Any Chromebooks that are district devices, which will be all of our Chromebooks, so it doesn't work with laptops, it only works with Chromebooks, you can do lockdown browser. So that means that this browser window that the students are taking their quiz in, they're locked into that. They cannot open another tab and search for the answers. So kind of nice. So you can turn that on if you're at school. Now, if you're using the VDIs, it doesn't work. And if you're using laptops, that doesn't work, but it does on our Chromebooks, and that's what we're going to have at our school. So you can release the grade immediately after they take it if you want. Again, that is giving some information about the quiz to the students ahead of time. In this environment, it probably doesn't matter because the kids are on Zoom. And then if you did have any of those open-ended questions, for example, if you did have a time-lapse video, or if you were having them, watch a video and write a summary, you're probably going to ask for it to be later after you review their answers, because it's not scored yet. So I would click this most of the time and immediately after some of the time. Now that you have this set up, we're going to click save at the top right, and we're ready to go. So now we're ready to put in the correct answer, because really right now all we have are the questions. There are no points assigned to this. So you click on the question. So each question that you have, you'll click on the question, and you're going to come down here to answer key. So each question will have this answer key. So you click there, and now you're in the answer key portion of the question. And this is why I have it set as 0, because it lights it up and it reminds me to assign a point to it. So I'm going to make this worth 1 point. And now I'm going to check, I'm going to select the correct answer, which is blue, and I'm going to unselect this one. And now I'm ready to go. So I can do add answer feedback. Now this is really good for upper grades. You can give feedback for the correct answers. Now the feedback for an incorrect answer applies to all the incorrect answers. Unfortunately, it's not so robust that, if you were trying to gauge a student's thinking on a math problem, or on a language arts, like what is the main idea? And you had 4 options for the main idea. For each option, you would understand why the student chose that. What is their misthinking? So you could enter incorrect or feedback for them for all the incorrect answers right now. We're hoping that Google comes up with the other way of doing it, but it's going to take a while. The other thing I like about this is you can also add a link that will direct them to maybe a document that you have in your Google Drive that explains the information, or a YouTube video. So if it's a math problem and you have a link to a Khan Academy video, you could put that YouTube video in there and showing them how to do it correctly, whether it's main idea or solving math problems. And then you can also give correct answer feedback. And for the growth mindset, we always compliment the effort and not the child. So something like, great job. I can tell you, oops, you worked hard to study this information, something like that, right? And then here, you might say, please go back to your notes, or please refer to your notes from Wednesday, something like that. And then you save it. When you save it, under the question, you'll see the 2 feedbacks responses for the kids. Now, what we can do right now is see if we can record something from Talk and Comment for those kids, like your primary. Great job. I can tell you worked hard to study this information. So we'll copy this, Control C, Control V, paste it, save, and voila, it worked. So you can also, we were talking about this earlier before you joined us, Melissa, that you can add voice notes within Google Forms now.
Okay, that was actually the whole reason I was like, oh, I need to come on here, because I wanted to see if there's a way that we can do. So is it through the Talk and Comment the best way to add? Because I kept wondering if I could do like some assessments, but then have me read the question to the students.
Yeah, absolutely. So we use, Carolyn and I figured this out last week. So using the Talk and Comment extension, if you don't have it, it's hard to find in the Chrome Web Store. So I suggest just going to Google, typing in Talk and Comment Chrome extension, and adding it. And it works in Google Docs, it works in, we just now know Forms, and it works in Google Classroom. Now, it doesn't work in Google Slides. When you want to add audio to Google Slides, you actually have to record an audio file. And there are a lot of different ways of doing that.
I know how to do that already, but what about, could you show me how you added that voice note again?
Okay.
So if I download the Talk and Comment extension, then like if I wanted to make one of my questions on my Google form with the Talk and Comment, how would I add that?
Right. So do you have it, the extension?
I don't. I just made a note to get
Okay.
it.
So it looks like this at the top. Here, let me get my little pointer focus thing. Just takes a second for it to activate. So up here is the Talk and Comment. And when you click on it, it turns it on. So this is how you turn it off. Okay. And once you turn it on, it shows up and it just lives there on any application that you're in. It'll live there. So waiting for my yellow thing to come up. There we go. So once it's on, so let me go up to, this is the question right here. So what I did was feedback. So let me click done and go back to the question. So now we're in the question. So I'm going to click next to the question and I'm going to click enter. Come on. It's being, there we go. Okay, it's not letting me enter. All right, so I'm going to go over here and I'm going to just click on this. I'm going to start recording. I'm just going to read what it says. What color is the sky on a clear day? So now I click on it once and it highlights the whole thing for me. It's good to go. I'm going to use the shortcuts, Control-C to copy it. Then I'm going to come over here, trying to click enter, but it's not letting me. And I'm going to use Control-V to paste it. Now it looks ugly right now, but once I go up to preview, which is how it's going to look when the kids look at it, it turns like that.
What color is the sky on a clear day?
So that's all you have to do. So I don't know if I could do it for each answer. Let's see. Red. Yep.
What color is the sky on a clear day?
Red. Yeah, you could do one for each answer. So not only, so I don't know if you saw when I was adding these, but I added, so when you're creating a question, you can add an image after the question.
Yeah, I know how to
You
do
have to
that.
do-
I was just trying to figure out a way to do I kept thinking, should I like record a YouTube video? But then I'm like, then they're not on the question. So that it's totally will help. I'm in the middle of making a Google form right now. So that's why I was like, perfect for me to hop onto this.
Yeah. So I've explained basically all of the options here. The last thing that I haven't explained is how to share it. So you're not going to want to email it with your kids. If you're using Google Classroom, it's easy. All you do is go in, create an assignment, and then from your Google Drive, find the quiz. And then when you're creating a quiz in Google Classroom, you want to make sure that you make it a quiz, right? So when the kids are finished, you can import the scores into your Google Gradebook, your classroom gradebook. So if you're sending out a survey for your families, this is how you would get the link. You could just copy it here. You could shorten it and then copy it. And then this embed code is used for like Google Sites or Canvas if you're using Canvas, but that's an embed code. That's a universal sign for embed code. So that's basically what the send feature is. Here is where you can make a copy of it if you want to use it the next year, but you don't want all the same, because all the students' answers are going to be all together if you use the same form one more time. So to get their answers or to look at them, you would go, it has to be in the edit mode. You would go over here to responses. Now, nobody has responded, but right here, the list would be of all of the students' names, well, actually it'll be all the questions across the top will be all the students' names. And you could look at the Google responses by the entire quiz. You could look at it by question, or you could look at it by student. You can also turn off accepting responses. And then again, just remember the scoops or the 3 dots are additional menu. So here's where you can select a response destination. You can be notified. So let's say everyone's already submitted theirs, but you had 2 kids absent. You could turn this on so that when they do finally turn in their answers to the quiz, you get a notification. And then you can also download them, which you don't really need because you have this guy right here. This right here allows you to create a Google Sheet with all the responses. So I'm going to go ahead. Usually you don't add it to an existing spreadsheet. That's usually for data collection. When you're doing something like this, you create, and that's why the default setting is create a new one. So we're going to create a new spreadsheet. And then this is where it'll have the timestamp that they took it, their email address, and then I didn't put first name, last name. I got to show you how to do that. It'll have their score. And then here's the question. So on D, what I would do is I would click at the top and highlight the entire column. Then this one right here, this funky looking line with the arrow coming out, this is text wrapping. So when you click on that and you click the U-turn, it's going to wrap all the text for you. It also is including the talk and comment. You could take that out if you wanted to from your sheet, and it won't affect your form. Get rid of that so it's not so long. So on that one example where I had the image and then I am having the kids write something, this whole column, if you wrapped it, you would be able to see it rather than their answer going on horizontally forever. So it'd be much easier. And then you could just take this, since it would just be the one answer, and you could just extend this out, and their long response would be right here. And you could read each student. Any questions on any of that? Okay, so if you had something like this and you wanted to add the, let me find the one where I'm, okay, there it is. Let me close all these other extra ones. So if you wanted to add the name section to this, what you would do is you would click right here on the very first part, and you would add a new section. And this is now going to be, wait a minute. Oh, I did that wrong. Sorry. Let me do it right here. Come on, there. Section. All right. So, okay, there it is. I need to pull this up to the top. So in your section, you're going to have a little bar sometimes. You're supposed to have one where you can move it up. Maybe I'll just move this one down. You're supposed to have this. So let me just move this down here. Where did it go? Oh, it didn't move. Gosh darn it. Okay, let's try this again. Oh. I'm having a heck of a time getting another section. Okay, let's just do it like this then. At least this way it was above it. All right, so we're going to title this one name, and we're going to add a question. Another question. And then they should be able to go on to the next section. Actually, let's call this one quiz. And I don't know why 2 is there, but I'm going to move this question above it. It's not letting me move things today. Oh, after section 1. There we go. I think I'm just trying to move it too far. There. So first they have those 2, then they go on to the quiz. So I'll show you what it looks like when we preview. And it's simply because our email addresses are their ID numbers, they're not their names. Like most districts use a form of the student's name with numbers, like a combination. So at least you know who's who, but this district does not. So this is what the kids would see. So they would have to type in. And remember, I shuffled the questions. So that's why first name came first. This one's being shuffled. And then I would click next. And then I would answer the question, red, and then I would submit. Now for us, we can see we have a response. This is a summary of the responses. So we have one person. So this is a nice glimpse of, if what's the most often incorrect answer, which is probably going to be clear. I can look at this by student, by question, and by student. So that's basically quizzes. And I mean, you kind of can figure out how you can add an image or a YouTube video or something like that, just based on what I showed you. If you're not crazy about the color purple, you can change this, and that's what this little palette is. And you can pick all kinds of different colors that you might like better, or you can actually choose an image. They have preloaded images. And then more advanced, I can show you how to create your own, but you could just pick an image and have that be the background instead. And then they give you a few more. You can make it pink if you want, if it's Easter, or if you just want it to be not colorful. And then the background color you can adjust also to be brighter or darker. And then the font style, you can make it more playful looking if you want. That's basically everything about forms. If you want to know any more advanced uses for forms, I can help you out. All you have to do is give me a buzz. So any questions?
Hey, Ronnie, I have a question about the talk and comment again.
Okay.
Do you know if that works on Jamboard also?
I haven't tried it.
Okay.
Haven't tried it. Yeah, you should try that.
So it should just, because I'm working on Google Forms right now for a quiz, but then I'm also working on a Jamboard. So when I download it, it should just show up as like a little icon